Commerson's Dolphin, Cephalorhynchus commersoni, is a rather smallish dolphin. It's not the smallest, mind you, that being its cousin, the Hector's dolphin, more specifically its critically endangered subspecies, Maui's dolphin. Still, it's pretty small. It grows to at most about 1.5 meters, 5 feet in length. Look how cute these guys are! Look at them! Commerson's dolphin is very typically dolphin in behavior. It's extremely active and is often seen within its range jumping out of the water, spinning and twisting around, as well as bow riding behind fast-moving boats. Like most dolphins of its size range, it primarily feeds on fish and squid, though they do eat some crustaceans as well. A rather interesting thing about Commerson's dolphin is its range. It's found in two very disparate areas. The largest population is found offshore of southern Argentina, near the Strait of Magellan and the Falkland Islands. The other population lives 8,000 miles away near the Kerguelen Islands, in the middle of the southern Indian Ocean. There are two principal ways to navigate around South America: the Strait of Magellan and the Drake Passage. Before the creation of the Panama Canal and the establishment of the Northwest Passage, these were the only way to travel to the Pacific from the Atlantic, short of just going in the opposite direction around Africa. Both sea routes are of some notoriety due to their danger. Many a ship has been lost in both, and for a time they were viewed something of a nigh insurmountable challenge. Nowadays, they are still somewhat of a risk, though how much of a risk depends on your approach. See, this here is the Strait of Magellan, and this here is Drake Passage. The strait is a narrow route between the mainland of South America and Tierra del Fuego archipelago. The strait often has troublesome currents and drafts that can make navigation tricky for larger vessels, as well as any smaller vessels that rely on sails. The winds there can flat out stop a sailing vessel from making any headway whatsoever. Factor in the narrowness of the strait and its winding direction changes, and you have a passage that puts ships at great risk. On the other hand, the Drake Passage is a broad passage between Cape Horn and Antarctica in the south. This route is dangerous because it's essentially the focal point for the Antarctic Circumpolar Current, which pushes a massive amount of water through the passage. The seas are extremely rough and treacherous, and it's frequently quite icy. It's particularly dangerous to small vessels, powered or sailing, though it's really the only option for any sort of sailing ship or large vessel. So the Strait of Magellan is preferable if a ship is small to medium in size and self-propelled, as then it can power through the troublesome wind conditions and currents without being pushed around too much, and can handle the narrowness of the passage more easily. Drake's Passage, on the other hand, is preferable if the vessel is sailing or large, as the open sea makes navigation much easier for those vessels, even if that open sea is quite dangerous and rough in and of itself. The Kerguelen Islands, also known as the Desolation Islands, are a small group of islands in the southern Indian Ocean in the Tropic of Capricorn. Its latitude is roughly the same of that of Cape Horn in South America, though as the Desolation moniker implies, it's pretty bare, though not totally. The islands were first discovered in 1772. Soon after that, it became a stopover point for whalers and sealers who began to hunt the large amounts of seals and whales in the area, though thankfully not too much to destructive levels. The islands are an emerged portion of the Kerguelen Plateau, a large topographical extremity that was once something of a subcontinent. The Kerguelen hotspot formed something around 100 million and 50 million years ago. It was roughly in that range that you had the islands appear, though the subcontinent completely sank around 20 million years ago and now only resides a few kilometers below sea level, and the Kerguelen Island is volcanically largely dead, and has been for quite some time. The fauna of the islands is a bit of an interesting topic. Due to the remoteness and desolateness of the island, there isn't a lot of natural development in a macroscopic sense. Penguins such as the king, gentoo, rockhopper, and macaroni make it their home, as do a number of other seabirds. A number of seals also make it their home, including the southern elephant seal, the Antarctic fur seal, and some occasional leopard seals. There's also a local population of whales and, of course, Commersons Dolphin. Beyond that, it seems strange to think that it would become such an important stopover place for those reasons alone. But there's another factor to consider, namely the flora of the Kerguelen Islands. While Kerguelen has no living trees or shrubs on any of the islands, it's home to a number of subarctic plants, including a few rather important ones. Traversing the islands used to be extremely difficult, as there were a large number of azorellas, a plant that would grow to a meter thick in continuous sheets over the whole plains of the island. The Kerguelen Islands are also home to a particular vegetable, the Kerguelen cabbage. This cabbage has a vitamin C-rich oil in its leaves, which made it very attractive to sailors who often suffered from scurvy. Its scientific name, Pringlea antiscorbutica, actually means against scurvy in Latin. The presence of this cabbage alone made the islands a useful stopover. But because the island became such a stopover, those that came here figured it'd be worth stocking some animals there as well, and introduced rabbits to the island so those that stopped could find meat as well as vegetables. Which was a bad idea. The rabbits have destroyed much of the native plants, and their only predators are the accidentally introduced feral cats, which also prey on nesting seabirds, another bad thing. Other introduced for food animals located on the islands are sheep, mountain sheep, and reindeer. Interestingly, the sheep variety introduced here is actually now endangered in Europe, and this reindeer population is the only one in the southern hemisphere. Funny how that works. Still, the physical island's importance is dwarfed by its seas. The seas of the Kerguelens are home to a massive population of kelp in colossal forests. These algae form the crux of the local ecosystem on the submerged Kerguelen Plateau, and they support a wide variety of animal species.